So now we have the Mockingjay. A species that shouldn't exist. An offspring from our neglect.
The Mockingjay is an element of the Hunger Games series that has a much deeper meaning than what's on the surface. It appears on the cover of every book, and the final book is even called The Mockingjay. So clearly, it's a huge part of the series, even if it wasn't at the center of the plot. The films unfortunately never went into much detail about Mockingjays or the Mockingjay pin, so in this video, I'm going to do what the films did not, and explain the origins of the actual Mockingjay birds, and explain what they go on to represent in the series. Let's first start with the actual bird, the Mockingjay, and how it was created. They were actually created by accident by the Capitol. The Capitol made an all-male species of birds called jabberjays. They were mutations genetically enhanced and created for one purpose: to be used as Capitol weapons to spy on the rebels in the districts during the First Rebellion. Jabberjays had the ability to remember and repeat long passages of human speech. The Capitol utilized this and sent them into rebel areas. There they would listen and remember the rebels' words and would return those words to the Capitol. They were able to pass on secret information like plans of attack, war tactics, and even inside information that could be used to bring the rebels down. It was a good idea in theory and worked for a while, but it ultimately backfired on the Capitol. The rebels eventually caught on and figured out what they were and what they were doing. This gave the rebels an opportunity to use the Capitol's own weapons against them, and they started feeding the Jabberjays misinformation to throw the Capitol off. They made the Capitol look extremely foolish, and the Capitol fell for their misinformation, preparing for attacks that led to empty bases, went after certain rebel groups that either ambushed them or weren't there at all, and would make plans of attack that were useless due to the fact that they were greatly misinformed. It was a huge failure and an embarrassment for the Capitol. Katniss described it as being sort of a slap in the face for them. Because of this, they scrapped the project and released the Jabberjays into the wild to die. They did eventually die off and become extinct, but not before the all-male species mated with female mockingbirds, creating an entirely new species, Mockingjays. This is very important because the Mockingjay was a creature that the Capitol never intended to exist. They had not counted on the highly controlled Jabberjays to have the brains to adapt to the wild, to pass on its genetic code, or to thrive in a new form. The species lost the ability to memorize and repeat long passages, but they could still mimic any vocal sounds from a child's high-pitched tone to a man's deep tones. They could also whistle melodies of songs with multiple verses if you had the patience to sing to them. However, they would only repeat songs if they enjoyed the singer's voice. We saw this a few times in the series, once with Katniss's dad. Her father would sing as they hunted in the woods outside of District 12, and the Mockingjays would repeat his melody. Her father had a special bond with them, so when he died, the birds meant a lot to Katniss. Rue also had a special bond with Mockingjays, just like Katniss's father. In District 11, they all used Mockingjays to signal to each other, specifically Rue, who signaled to the others that the workday was over.
Mockingjays. That's great.
Back home we use them to signal all the time.
She and Katniss later used them to their advantage in the arena, again to signal to each other.
You try.
The 4-note tune would ultimately become the series' theme, just as the Mockingjay became the logo for the series. The Mockingjay had its biggest breakthrough, however, when Katniss received her Mockingjay pin in the first book. In the film, it was given to her by Greasy Say, but in the books, this was not the case. In the books, it was given to her by Madge, who was actually cut from the films. She was the daughter of the mayor of District 12, and after the reaping, she visited Katniss before she went to the Capitol. This is when she gave Katniss the pin, asking if she would accept it as a token to represent their district in the games. The pin originally belonged to Madge's aunt, Maisa Lee Donner, who was in the second Quarter Quell along with Haymitch. Maisa Lee, the original owner of the pin, had two relationships in common with Katniss, the most recent owner of the pin. Maisa Lee allied herself with Haymitch in the arena, who was of course Katniss's mentor, and Maisa Lee was also best friends with Mrs. Everdeen, Katniss's mother, so the pin had ties with Katniss even before she was born. Katniss wearing the Mockingjay pin also made Rue trust her because, as I said, Rue had a special connection with the Mockingjays. This of course opened a great friendship and the two became allies in the arena. Katniss wearing the pin in the arena changed everything. She herself became a sign of the rebellion after she and Peeta refused to kill each other and planned to kill themselves instead.
Together? Together.
When Seneca Crane, the game maker, let them both survive, Katniss then became synonymous with the Mockingjay logo. Mockingjays became all the rage in the capital after the 74th Hunger Games. The capital residents were getting jewelry, fashion components, and tattoos with the Mockingjay on it. They wanted to remember that very exciting Hunger Games, wearing the winner's token. This of course drove President Snow crazy. Plutarch, the game maker in the following Hunger Games, had a watch whose crystal face bore an image of the Mockingjay, but the image was only visible when exposed in a certain way, underlying Plutarch's secret connection to rebel forces. He showed this to Katniss, not only to hint that he was on her side, bearing the same logo that she did, but also giving her a hint about the nature of the 75th Hunger Games arena that was designed as a clock. While the Mockingjay was a sign of luxury and fashion in the capital, it was quite the opposite in the districts. In the districts, it was a sign of rebellion. Because of Katniss's defiance, the Mockingjay began to pop up more and more as more people rose up and protested.
You haven't hurt people, Katniss. You've given them an opportunity. They just have to be brave enough to take it. There's already talk in the minds. People want to fight.
And just like the logo, Katniss herself became known as a sign of the rebellion, and the two things merged together. Katniss was now the Mockingjay.
This is the revolution, and you are the Mockingjay.
Both Katniss and the Mockingjay were two things that the Capitol created that ultimately backfired on them. As I said before, the Capitol created the Mockingjay, and if you look deeper, the Capitol created Katniss as the face of the revolution by putting her in the arena in the first place. Both things that they did not mean to make, and both things backfiring on them, causing the districts to rise up. The Capitol created both through their own poor choices and failures, and both of those failures formed together to create both the symbol and the person of the rebellion that will ultimately bring the Capitol to its knees. The symbolism that the Mockingjay takes on in the series stretches far beyond any other element in the books. In the books, it drives the war that ultimately defines the story, but in the real world, the Mockingjay is a symbol that is forever remembered by the audience. As I said, it's become the logo of the series, being featured on the cover of all 3 books, as well as many of the movie posters. Without the Mockingjay, the series might not have been as successful as it is, spawning record-breaking sales and 4 blockbuster films, not to mention an extremely loyal fan base, many of whom are probably watching this video right now. The Mockingjay is not just a bird, it's the symbol of the main conflict in the story, and the symbol for this phenomenal book series. Thanks so much for watching, guys. You can follow me on social media, links for that will be in the description. And I want to give a huge shout out to all my patrons listed below. If you want to be listed on my next video, plus a bunch of other rewards, check out my Patreon, which is linked down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you press that subscribe button to help grow the channel. Again, thank you so much for watching, and look out for more great videos on the way.